Hi everyone, it's me, Diana, the Doll Fairy. Today we'll be traveling to a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and teaming up with a few of our doll creator allies to create dolls based on the epic and immersive universe of Star Wars. I'll be creating dolls based on my two favorite characters in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, Rey and Kylo Ren. The Last Jedi got a lot of heat from some people who didn't like certain creative decisions made in the film, but I think there's one aspect of the film that was unequivocally awesome, and that is the growing connection between these two massively powerful and quite complex characters. I also want these dolls to have more realistic human proportions, so I won't be using Ever After High or Monster High dolls. Instead, I'm going to use Barbie head sculpts. For Rey, after studying a bunch of different Barbie face molds, I eventually decided on using a Mattel live-action Cinderella doll because of the slightly squarish face shape, which I think is similar to Daisy Ridley's. Because this doll's body is very poorly articulated, however, I'll be putting this head on a Barbie made-to-move body. The skin tone match isn't exact, but after using pastels to shade her face, I don't think the difference will be that noticeable. For Kylo Ren, I chose this Edward Cullen Mattel doll from Twilight. Although Robert Pattinson looks nothing like Adam Driver, looking at this head sculpt looked to me like it could work for the brooding and somewhat imposing look of Kylo Ren. I think the somewhat thicker lips and the curve of the nose will work well. The body also needs to be replaced with one that's more articulated and much more sturdy, broad, and muscular, so I'm going to use this male Hot Toys body I got on eBay. The body has interchangeable hands, and even the feet are articulated. The skin tone is nowhere near similar, but none of the skin on the body will show when he has his full outfit on, so that shouldn't really be an issue. Edward Cullen also has literal glitter in his skin, but it seems to be a coating that should come off with acetone. It's not actually integrated into the vinyl material itself. Part of my original inspiration for this project was this random doll I got for $2 on sale at Toys R Us before its demise. Apparently he's Time from Alice Through the Looking Glass, and no one wanted to buy him, so his dolls got discounted over and over until he was literally $2.
Look, Barbie, a big ugly man doll.
I liked his cape, so I bought him. For Kylo Ren, I'll be repurposing Time's luxurious faux leather cape, lustrous black pants, and tall, menacing black studded boots. He looks like a bit of a mismatched mess right now, but proportion-wise, everything is coming together quite nicely. The other part of my inspiration were these quartz crystals I found in Hobby Lobby. They made me think of Kyber crystals, which are the crystals which power lightsabers, and I had the idea to make my Rey and Kylo Ren dolls a sort of abstract Kyber crystal power couple who rule the galaxy as equals, one light and one dark, balancing each other out. I am a huge admirer of an artist named Elithien, who makes the most beautiful Reylo art, and these pieces were a big inspiration for this project as well. So Kylo Ren will be in his typical black, while Rey will stick with her light neutral color palette, but will look more royal and, well, Empress-like. While brainstorming her look, I'm considering these shiny ivory satin fabrics, as well as this sheer, flowy off-white fabric for a dramatic skirt that will echo her usual design elements of the hanging pieces of fabric. I also have this super cool faux leather brown ribbon that I used for my Rey cosplay that I'm sure will come in handy. We'll figure out the specifics later. Right now, let's prep these doll heads by cutting off their hair, removing the heads from the body after soaking them in hot water for a few minutes, scraping out the hair plugs and glue with jewelry pliers, and wiping off the factory paint with acetone nail polish remover and cotton balls. Without the factory paint, I feel like I can clearly see these sculpts turning into Rey and Kylo Ren as depicted by Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver. For their hair, I'm going to be using yarn to make wigs. I got these short brown yarn pieces in clearance at Hobby Lobby for only 12 cents, so let's see if I can make this work. Since these are Barbie heads, which are smaller in proportion, and Rey doesn't need to have very long hair, I should be able to use this yarn. I brushed the ends out a bit before gluing them into unfinished wefts on pieces of plastic using Mod Podge. I brushed the rest out after it's all secure and dry later on. For Kylo Ren's hair, I have some regular acrylic black yarn that I also got for super cheap in clearance, that I cut into longer pieces, loop onto plastic mesh, and brush out and straighten as I would normally before gluing it into long, lustrous wefts. I also made them each a custom-fitted wig cap with some knit fabric, elastic bands, and a few thick layers of Mod Podge. I won't actually glue the wigs together until I've finished the face-ups though, so let's get started on that. After spraying both heads with 2 to 3 layers of Mr. Super Clear Sealant to give the surface tooth in order for the pigments to stick, I start sketching in the facial features with my Prismacolor watercolor pencils. I have to say that I was pretty intimidated about, first of all, repainting a much different type of head sculpt on a much smaller scale than Ever After High, and secondly, trying to make these dolls look at least a little bit like the actual actors. I started with Rey and had a bunch of reference photos beside me on my laptop to try to get a good likeness. It was also difficult to get just the right kind of expression. Rey is usually pretty feisty looking, especially in figures and dolls that have been made of her. But I wanted her to look a bit softer, like in this photo from the Vanity Fair photo shoot for The Rise of Skywalker coming out in December. I don't want her to look angry or closed off because this doll is one of a pair, and I want both her and Kylo Ren / Ben Solo to look as if they're kind of reacting to each other, I guess. So basically, I started drawing Rey sort of feisty and tough, and then softened her as I went along, because she's different, more soft and feminine when she's connecting with Ben. For Ben himself, I also had to be careful to give him a bit of his default angsty or angry look, while also making it look as if that puppy dog sweetness is starting to break through as he begins to get close to Rey. I also want them to be glancing in each other's direction so that when side by side, the dolls can look as if they're looking at one another. So Rey's eyes will be looking to her right, while Ben's will be slightly in the direction of his left. I'm not sure whether to call him Ben or Kylo Ren throughout most of this video, so I'm just going to use them interchangeably. Another thing that was intimidating to me was figuring out how to use pastels to create contours and shadows in the face that would help make the sculpt look a little more like a realistic depiction of the actual actors. I mostly studied reference photos very closely to figure out where to place the shadows, how deep they should be, what tones I should use, etc. I was very much just figuring it out as I went along, but I feel like I learned a lot from the process and from experimenting with different colors and placements. As you might be able to tell from watching this, I was more hesitant and careful in the beginning, and as I began to get more comfortable with the process and figure out how to achieve more of what I wanted, I became a bit more heavy-handed with the colors. I was having a hard time getting dark colors to build up in their eyes, so I used some acrylic paints for the irises and to accent the whites of the eyes. On a smaller scale like this, there's less room to play with creating color gradations, so I pretty much stuck with medium to dark brown shades in Rey's eyes and much darker browns for Kylo Ren. I also use a tiny dot of white paint for a little highlight in each iris. After some final touches with pastels, I give them a final spray with MSC, and then both face-ups are done. I really had no idea how they would turn out, so I was very pleasantly surprised that they came out as well as they did. They don't look like perfect likenesses of Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley as Kylo Ren and Rey, but I still feel like they make good doll representations of the characters and their actors, and I like them a lot. Let's give them their hairstyles. After trimming the wig caps to size, I use fast grab tacky glue to arrange the wefts in rows, starting at the back of the head. Since Rey always has her hair pushed back from her forehead, she won't need an actual part line. Instead, there will be a weft at the top pulled back into a partial updo style. I'll use clips to hold it in place gently while it dries. For Kylo Ren, the process is similar, but his hair parts on one side to get that swoopy sort of look in the front. In order to shorten the hair, which is much too long, especially in Kylo Ren's case, I wait for the wig to dry completely, and then the next day I use an eyebrow razor to shorten the hair without getting an unsightly blunt cut like I would with scissors. This was actually the first time I tried using the eyebrow razor for myself, and it was so easy to do and it came out so nicely. At Rey's hairline, a bit of the wig cap was visible, so to cover that up and to give the front part of her hair a more interesting and realistic look, I added some bits of the hair that I had cut off to form a few little wispy strands here and there. Now to get started on the outfits. I came up with a vague idea of what I might like Rey's dress to look like and sketched it out, but as you can see, it's pretty messy and unclear. I actually had a bit of a difficult time constructing her outfit because, well, I didn't really have a clear plan. I did know that I wanted her clothing to be recognizable as Rey and not look like a generic princess dress. I decided to incorporate the styles and shapes she usually wears, but make them a bit more elegant. I used a piece of paper towel and a rubber band to draft a backless top. I then made it out of this crinkly ivory satin fabric and used a strip of the faux leather to create a sort of belt closed with Velcro above her midriff. Then I created a flowy gathered skirt with the sheer ivory fabric by hemming the edges so that it would have a slit going all the way up her leg. At the top, I used a strip of elastic to fit it around her waist, and also used another perpendicular piece of elastic to keep the skirt down around the hip area. I'll also be adding embellishments to this basic skirt later. I decided to give her her signature armbands, and started with some tight sleeves made of knit fabric in a tan color. But in order to make them look a bit more elegant, I used strips of the crinkly satin fabric instead of a rougher gauzy material. I used fast grab tacky glue to attach and secure the strips as I wrapped them around the arm sleeves. For Kylo Ren, he will need a tight, stretchy black turtleneck shirt and a broad vest to go over it. I create a pattern for the shirt by wrapping the doll in plastic wrap, then sticking a layer of masking tape all over the area I want to make the pattern for. I cover the entire torso, most of the neck, and one full arm. Then I draw seam lines onto the tape and cut along them to create the pattern pieces. I further refine the pieces by cutting necessary darts and retracing them onto paper. Then I can trace and cut out my fabric pieces and get sewing. And it's a perfect fit. For the vest, I'm going to use textured shiny black satin for the outside, and I'm also going to line the vest with some basic black cotton fabric. Lining the vest will ensure that I have nice edges and will also make the vest appear thicker. Lining clothing is really tricky and I'm still trying to get the hang of it. The collar turned out a bit wonky, but in all, the vest turned out pretty well. We're getting closer to completing the dolls now. I paint Kylo's hands black to give the appearance of gloves, and then I seal the paint with some diluted Liquitex matte varnish. Now I want to work on making crowns before I go any further. The Kyber crystals were such an important inspiration for me that I want to make sure that they will work with the design. I have a bunch of different colors as well as the white to add a splash of red and blue to echo the colors of their lightsabers. I also got these obsidian-looking beads to use for Kylo's dark crown. Rey's crystal accessories will utilize white crystals as well as light blue and gold. I realized that a full-blown crown might not look right with her hairdo, so I give her a string of crystals at her waist, as well as a smaller sort of tiara accessory to go at the top of her head around the little bun in her hair. Back to Kylo, I'm also making him a faux leather belt to go around his vest, except that it needs to be black, so I'm gluing strips of this thin leather cord onto the brown leather piece. I'm also going to be wrapping this cord all the way up Kylo Ren's arms and securing it with glue to the sleeves of his shirt. This took a little while to get it just right, but I think it looks really cool. I also glued a separate piece of cord around each of his hands, so that the sleeves have the oversized look they're supposed to without sacrificing the ability to pose or change out his hands. I have to say, I think he's looking pretty snazzy so far. Let's see how they look with their heads and wigs. Getting back to Kylo's crown, I realized the red crystals I had used were really more of a deep pink than red. So I remade the crown using the lighter red crystals in place of the darker ones, and I think it looks much better that way. Since this whole project was somewhat vaguely inspired by Elithien's gorgeous Reylo art, I thought of the beautiful Kyber crystal lightsabers designs that she actually sells in enamel pin form on her website. Check it out, I'll link it below. I decided to take the lightsabers that I already had from my Rey and Kylo Ren Forces of Destiny dolls and add Kyber crystals to the base for a cool fantasy look. Kind of impractical for battle, but we're always more concerned about things just looking cool here on the Doll Fairy channel. The last thing was Kylos Cape. I had wanted to take out the purple satin and line it with red instead. However, I just wasn't sure if it would be too bright and look out of place. I thought maybe his clothing should stick to just black, and the lightsaber and crystals should be the only pops of red so that they would really stand out. I ended up removing the purple and just hemming down the black fabric using a running stitch. I'm still on the fence about whether to go back and give him the red satin after all. What are your thoughts on that? My mom said that it would look too much like Dracula. The last thing I did was add a couple of stitches to the shoulders of the cape so that the fabric would fall just the way I wanted it to. And now our ship is ready to sail. These Forces of Destiny dolls are super cute, but let's work a little doll magic to create a different set of Reylo dolls. I installed a Kyber crystal to power my wand for this, so let's see what happens. Wow, they got taller. neglected to mention earlier in the video that for shoes, I gave Rey clear blue heels from an Elsa doll. I really had a hard time figuring out what footwear would look good with the ensemble, and also didn't have time to make some kind of elaborate boots or anything. But the translucent blue heels look reminiscent of the light blue crystals and match her lightsaber blade almost perfectly, and since the shoes aren't too prominent underneath the sheer skirt, I think it works. Out of the two, I think I'm more satisfied with how Kylo Ren turned out, because I think his outfit came out better than I expected, and overall I feel like he really does look like a supreme leader of the First Order, or Emperor of the Galaxy or something. As for Rey, I really like her face and hair, and I also feel like her outfit is a good representation of the character reimagined as some kind of abstract Kyber crystal queen. I wish I could have made her outfit a bit more ornate and detailed somehow, but I also had to hold back from making it too fancy or frilly, because then it wouldn't look like Rey anymore. As a couple, I think they look great together because of the drastic contrast between them. Who else really wanted Rey to say yes when Ben asked her to join him? I get why she felt she had to say no, but I'm all for letting the past die and working together with Ben to fix up the galaxy. I really hope that episode 9 fulfills this idea of breaking away from the old dichotomy of dark versus light and gives us something different and beautiful. We'll have to see in December. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget that my doll friends have also made some amazing representations of Star Wars characters that you should really check out. The links to their channels can be found below in the description. As for what's coming up on the Doll Fairy, the next Pokemon in the Zodiac, which will be Melodic representing Pisces, will be here soon. To see updates on my progress between videos, early access to seeing new doll projects, as well as other behind-the-scenes videos and to join exclusive collaborations, check out my Patreon page, also linked below. I hope you had fun, and I'll see you all again very soon for more doll magic. Bye!